Hello and welcome to my discussion on 3 books that I've read in July. One was a reread. First, The Hellfire Club, published in 1961. This was written by Daniel P. Mannix. It is a nonfiction book, and I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. The next book is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. That was originally published in 1959. And the reread for me was Hell House. This is by Richard Matheson, and that was published in 1971. A number of people have been talking about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Some have mentioned that Richard Matheson based his novel, Hell House, on Shirley Jackson's original work. And at the moment, I can't remember if that was something that Matheson had said himself, or if some people are thinking because there are so many similarities between the two, that's where his idea for the work came from. And I would have agreed until I read The Hellfire Club, which was also already in publication by the time that Matheson wrote his work. The events in this book are very much like one of the individuals in Hell House, the owner who built the property. But I'll talk a bit more about that as I get to Hell House. There's a lot of hell in this video. So to begin, the book that was published in 1961. The Hellfire Club is about Sir Francis Dashwood, a number of men who belonged to the club. They called themselves monks. There were women involved in these different rituals, activities, orgies, whatever you want to call them. There were very bizarre things that these individuals did, and many of these men were politicians in the British government. So, of course, when these events came to light, of course, none of them lost their seats or stepped down. I mean, please. Have you seen the news in 2025? Things haven't changed much. That, in a nutshell, sums up what the activities these individuals were up to. Of course, even once it came out, like I say, they didn't step down. People were actually curious about watching these individuals show up to their, whatever you want to call their events. So they decided to move from the location everybody knew to wait, because of course these monks would show up covered. The women always wore masks, and even during the rituals, whatever you want to call it, the women never took their masks off, which is rather interesting. If you're curious to know more about this book, let me know, and I can certainly do a deep dive who were the individuals and some of the shenanigans. As far as this video, just a couple of things that I do want to mention. This is from page 31. It's interesting how people manage to twist words to their advantage and excuse their behavior. Oddly enough, the password to get into these events was "Do what thou wilt." Now, if you know anything about pagan beliefs, if you've heard about the Witch's Reedy, or you've read things by Robert Graves, you're aware that sentence is actually supposed to be "Do what thou wilt as long as you harm none." So the folks here at the Hellfire Club decided to just leave that at basically do what you want. But they took it even further. And again, remembering this is in the late 1700s. So the men had set up this whole atmosphere. There was lots of wine, there was food, there were statues that most people wouldn't have in their house, I'm willing to bet. They set up this whole dealio, keeping in mind this is in the late 1700s. This is from page 31. Sometime before, Dashwood had obtained a book on black magic from the bookseller Edmund Carrill, who had a publishing house in Covent Gardens, where he published pornographic works for a select courtier. Dashwood was one of his best customers. At his patron's request, Carrill obtained for him a treatise on occultism, probably a copy of The Key of Solomon or the Kabbalah. At that time, books on occultism were illegal and considered in the same class as pornography, and only illicit publishers handled them. This book, whatever it was the basis for the club's magical ceremonies. I don't know. These politicians definitely seem to have some twisted habits, hobbies, whatever you want to call them, and things haven't changed much. But based on the activities that were going on in here, I really do think if Matheson hadn't read the Hellfire Club, it's an interesting coincidence how he describes the events that were going on at the Hell House before it had gained that name and the atrocities that were occurring there, which certainly explains why this house had gotten the reputation it had, especially being left abandoned for 30 years. Now, the haunting of Hill House is a very different story. I mean, the similarities between these two is that they both involve people wanting to do psychic research. They both have a doctor specialist who's conducting the research and in charge of things, but they're very different stories. I have to say, I was a bit disappointed in The Haunting of Hill House, especially after hearing so many people talk about it and enjoying the read. And I definitely missed something, obviously. In this case, we have the doctor who had placed an ad to get people to come and participate in his psychic study. I believe they were due to stay there over the summer. We learn about the person who originally built the house, Hugh Crane. Sadly, his first wife was never able to enjoy the home. She died before entering it. They had 2 daughters. Hugh went off, got another wife, left the 2 girls to be raised by others. Then he had a 3rd wife, and he died away from home. I either missed something reading this story, because there weren't really any events that made me understand why this house would have the reputation it did. There was very little throughout the story that would fall within the paranormal. There were some bangs and a few events. Big hoo-ha. There's an odd couple who take care of the grounds, clean the house, do the cooking for these people, but rarely ever speak or interact with them. As for the individuals, and I'm going to guess this is Eleanor going up the stairs to the tower, which occurs later in the story. She had taken care of her mother for a number of years. Her mother passed away, and she decided to answer the ad, steals the car, and goes to meet these people at the house. We have Theodora, who I believe is supposed to have some psychic abilities. We don't really see much of that come out throughout the book. We have Luke, who is actually due to inherit the house. He is a relative of the current owners, and the owners insisted that a relative had to be present for them to agree to have anyone enter it. We have Dr. Montague, who's conducting the research, and he's trying to I'll give him credit, he's at least trying to put together some type of experiments and do some documentation. Much later in the book, his wife comes to stay for a weekend. She comes with her friend Arnold. It's just a bizarre situation. She decided not to come for the summer and stay with them because, she couldn't miss yoga class. Maybe, I guess. And the story seems to be, at least to me, more about these dysfunctional people than it is about anything paranormal or this house. We have Eleanor and Theodora, who can't seem to decide whether they're friends or dislike each other. It's hard to tell whether Eleanor and Theodora find Luke interesting and they're both competing for his attention, whether he has any interest in either one of them. And I can't make sense of the doctor's wife and her planchette, which is not the Ouija board, it's automatic writing. So I have to say, as much as I was looking forward to this story, I was really disappointed. Let me know down below if you enjoyed it. Was I missing something? Do I need to reread this again with a different mindset? I don't know. As far as Hell House, when I first read it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it just as much the second read. Now again, we have a home that has been vacant, but in this case, it's been vacant for 30 years. We have windows that are boarded up, and also a very different scenario in terms of who ends up at this house. We have, again, a doctor, but in this case, his wife is with him. And the doctor is offered $100,000 to go to this home and do research and find some facts about the afterlife. His wife has some major mental issues, but she wants to be with her husband and support him. He has physical issues, so she wants to be there and help him out. He has a piece of equipment that he's very much wanting to test, and Hell House is the ideal location to do that. Our two other characters are both psychics. Yes, I do have my comparison notes at the back of the book. No, Noah, I did not do that to make you scream. I did it because it was the easiest way to do the comparison. In Hell House, we have Flo and Ben, who are the two psychics. Now, Flo has been using her abilities. She runs a church. She's hoping that this money that she gets from going to do the research, because they're all offered a huge sum of money, she's hoping that this will help out her church. Ben was at the house when he was 15 years old, back in 1940. There's another big difference between the two. In Hill House, this is the first group going to do the investigation. They're not being paid to do it. They volunteered. The doctor has his own interests in the house. In Hell House, they've been offered $100,000 each by an older gentleman named Deutsch, and he wants to have answers about the afterlife. His son, on the other hand, thinks this is all a bunch of nonsense. He's totally against this team going to the house. The first group of researchers were there in 1931. The second group went in 1940, and Ben was a part of that group. And now in 1970, we have this group of 4 going that Deutsch is offering to pay. From the 2 previous groups, and they had 3 scientists between the 2 groups, 8 people died Ben is the only one who survived, and he was in a coma for 3 months afterwards. He was just 15 years old when those events occurred. We learn about the original owner, and much like the Hellfire Club, there were some very bizarre rituals and twisted things happening. The difference between the people in Hell House and the Hellfire Club is Hellfire Club had regular meetings, but people went home. At Hell House, people stayed in the house, and that's where many of them died. That's why I think Matheson likely came across either some information about the Hellfire Club or something similar, because there are a lot of very dark and sinister things here. No, I didn't like that there's a cat in the story, and yes, spoiler, in fact it doesn't go well for most of the people in this book, but I'm not going to tell you who or what happened. In terms of which one was the scarier read, for me, definitely Hell House. There were far more paranormal events. There was that dark, sinister history and some kind of reasons for why this house had the reputation and the name it does. As for The Haunting of Hill House, I can't say it was scary. It was more like trying to figure out from a psychology perspective what's wrong with these people, and nothing to do with the paranormal. Let me know if you've read either of these. Did you enjoy them both? Also, let me know if you want to hear more about the Hellfire Club. Who were these politicians? How did they manage to hang on to their jobs, even being involved in this? What does this have to do with Ben Franklin and the American Revolution? The answers may surprise you. Until next time, be well, be safe, big hugs, and remember, if someone invites you to do a paranormal investigation or just out for a weekend of fun and entertainment, you might want to do a little bit of research and find out exactly what it is you're agreeing to.